Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're completely dismantling that amateur just add more servers mindset, and instead we're uncovering the principal engineer's blueprint for scaling stateful systems. If you've ever wondered how those massive planetary scale applications handle completely unpredictable traffic without just collapsing, well, you're exactly where you need to be.
So, picture this. It's 3 a.m. Your phone is literally vibrating off the nightstand. Your product just hit unprecedented traffic. You groggily check your dashboards, and your stateless API servers are totally fine. They've got plenty of headroom. But your database CPU, it is completely pegged at 100% and the entire system is going down. Honestly, this is the single most common scaling failure in modern backend engineering. Today, we're going to figure out exactly why it happens, and more importantly, how to fix it.
We're going to engineer our way out of this disaster step by step. We'll cover the 3 a.m. problem, the stateful trap, the bottom-up rule, scaling the database, the proxy solution, and we'll wrap it all up with the final mental model.
Okay, let's jump right into Section 1, the 3 a.m. problem, and tackle the core issue, scaling the completely wrong layer.
Listen, to really understand our 3 a.m. meltdown, we first have to clear up a massive misconception. A lot of developers conflate being fast with being scalable. But you know what? They are fundamentally different properties. Being fast just means you have super low latency for a single request. It's kind of like having a highly skilled chef who can cook a gourmet meal for one customer in 2 minutes flat. But scalable? That means your latency doesn't completely collapse when concurrency spikes. It's the ability to absorb thousands of concurrent requests, and I mean simultaneous requests, not just total daily volume, without violating your service level objectives. That takes a coordinated kitchen architecture, not just one fast chef.
So why did our kitchen catch on fire? That brings us to Section 2, the stateful trap.
This builds into an absolute nightmare scenario, a cascading failure pattern that we call the death spiral. You see, when traffic spikes, your autoscaler usually does its job and adds more stateless API servers. Great, right? Well, no, because every single new API instance opens a brand new connection pool to the database, and the database, which is stateful and finite, quickly exhausts its available connections. So what happens next? Your API instances start queuing, their health checks fail, your load balancer kills them off and spins up new ones, and those new instances immediately hammer the already exhausted database even harder. By infinitely scaling the stateless tier, you didn't solve the bottleneck. Actually, scratch that, you literally weaponized it.
Which leads us directly to Section 3, the bottom-up rule. This is the core discipline that really separates the juniors from the principal engineers.
Here is the golden rule you need to remember. You absolutely must scale your data layer before your compute layer. Think of your architecture like a multi-lane highway leading up to a single-lane bridge. Adding more API servers, that's just adding more lanes to the highway. It doesn't actually get more cars across the river. It just creates a much larger, much faster traffic jam right at the bridge. You've got to widen the bridge first. You scale bottom up.
So, how do we actually go about widening that bridge? We generally have two plays here. Horizontal scaling, adding a bunch of smaller servers, is incredible for stateless APIs because you get this infinite linear amplification and fault tolerance. But databases hold state. That means they can't be trivially copied without creating massive distributed systems headaches like data consistency issues and split-brain scenarios. Because of this, when scaling the database, our first move is almost always vertical scaling. I like to call it the Hulk strategy. We just get mad and we move the database to a bigger, beefier machine with way more CPU and RAM. For a while, it's the absolute path of least resistance.
But eventually, even the biggest, most expensive server in the cloud is going to hit a hard ceiling. That brings us to Section 4, scaling the database. How do we push past that ceiling? Well, let's look at a library analogy. When vertical scaling is totally maxed out, we introduce read replicas. Think of your primary database as the single librarian handling book checkouts. Those are your writes. Now, most applications are overwhelmingly read-heavy, like 80 to 95% reads. So we create reading room copies, the read replicas. Users can read from these practically infinitely scalable copies, taking all that massive pressure off the primary librarian. And finally, when the primary is completely overwhelmed with writes, we have to use sharding. That's essentially splitting the library's massive card catalog into completely separate physical cabinets.
Now, read replicas are a massive win, for sure. But you really have to watch out for their hidden failure mode, which is replication lag. Because replicas are copying the primary's write-ahead log asynchronously, they're usually a few milliseconds or during heavy load, maybe even seconds behind. Imagine a user updates their profile picture and immediately hits refresh. If they get routed to a replica that hasn't received the update yet, they'll silently see their old picture. They'll think your app is broken. As an engineer, you have to monitor this lag relentlessly.
And what about sharding for those super high write workloads? Look, sharding is the only way to scale writes horizontally, but it is your absolute last resort. Why? Because cross-shard queries become painfully incredibly slow. Resharding requires carefully moving live data around, which is just a massive operational headache. And if you pick the wrong shard key, you create a hot shard where, say, 90% of your traffic goes to one single machine anyway, completely defeating the purpose. You delay sharding as long as humanly possible because the operational complexity just multiplies overnight.
Okay, but let's say you successfully scaled. You've got replicas. Maybe you're even sharded. Well, you've just hit an entirely new wall. Welcome to Section 5, the proxy solution.
You now have a serious topology problem. You've got a primary database, you have multiple replicas, maybe you have a few shards. How on earth does your application code know which specific server to talk to for any given query? Option A is hard-coding all that nasty routing logic directly into your app. Option B, and this is the real game changer for large systems, is decoupling it. You introduce a proxy layer that acts like a highly intelligent receptionist, completely hiding all that messy database complexity from your application code.
Let's look at the industry standard for this, Proxy SQL. The way it works is brilliant. It organizes your databases into logical clusters called host groups. So your primary is in one host group and your replicas are in another. It then uses regex query rules to literally inspect the traffic on the fly. If it sees a query starting with the word select, boom, it automatically routes it over to the replica host group. It load balances the traffic perfectly. And your application code, it just happily thinks it's talking to one giant infinitely fast database.
But wait, it gets better. Here is the proxy's real secret weapon: connection multiplexing. Remember that death spiral we talked about earlier, where thousands of app connections just choked the database to death? Proxy SQL fixes it entirely. Your application fleet might open, say, 5,000 connections to the proxy. But the proxy itself only maintains a tiny, highly efficient pool, like maybe 50 connections to the actual database. It rapidly multiplexes or batches all those thousands of app requests through those 50 backend connections. To put that into perspective, it's like taking a massive, chaotic stadium crowd and seamlessly funneling them through a single, perfectly managed turnstile. It is the ultimate shield for your stateful tier.
Of course, in system design, every single solution eventually becomes your next bottleneck, right? A single proxy server won't hold up forever. You have to scale the proxy fleet itself horizontally. And to do that safely, you must use Layer 4 load balancing. Now you might be wondering why L4 and not the standard Layer 7 HTTP balancers we use for our APIs. Well, proxies like Proxy SQL use long-lived TCP connections that speak the exact raw MySQL protocol. If you stick a Layer 7 balancer in the middle of that, it will literally corrupt the MySQL framing. Layer 4 distributes the traffic beautifully right at the TCP level, keeping that delicate protocol perfectly intact.
Wow, okay, we have covered a massive amount of architectural ground today, from that 3 a.m. meltdown all the way up to L4 load balancing. Let's move to Section 6, the final mental model, and synthesize all of this into a framework you can actually use right away.
You see, a principled engineer doesn't just sit around memorizing what a proxy does. They approach every single system with a relentless discipline of inquiry. Whenever you are looking at a system design, you need to ask yourself these 4 senior questions. 1. Where exactly is the stateful bottleneck? 2. What happens when it inevitably fails? Does it degrade gracefully, or does it trigger a total death spiral? 3. How will I know it failed before my users start complaining on Twitter? And 4.
How do I roll it back? Ultimately, if you are staring down a massive architectural change and you cannot explain exactly how to reverse it safely when it triggers that horrifying 3 a.m. alarm, are you really ready to ship? I want you to think really hard about that before your next deployment. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep building resilient systems.